It was a New Year's Eve. It was 2004. It's the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. I'd smoked a few cones and I'd had lots to drink. Jumped in the driver's seat, looked back at the party, thought, do you know what you're doing? I was tired, I was stoned and drunk. There's a set of traffic lights in a T intersection, maybe 90 or 100 metres ahead of me and fast approaching. And I just remember the screeching tyres and bright lights, and then I hit something. When we make a mistake as humans, we're always so quick to go, it's okay, I can fix it, I can make it better, what can I do? This was done. I'm still here, I'm still alive, you know, why? And I said to her, I don't know how, Mum, or when, but I want to do something about this. I need to...
Straight away?
Yeah, very quickly. I said, I need to do something about it. This message and this story has the power to help so many other people, and we'll never know how many it might actually help.
Welcome everyone to the Reconnect Self podcast, the show that helps you ultimately rediscover what brings you joy. My name is Scott. I am your host. I'm also a filmmaker. And as always, I'm here with my wife, Tracy, who is a counsellor of 20 years experience, qualified breathwork instructor, and certified psychedelic assisted therapist. Hello.
Hi. You did well. You didn't stumble.
Well, I did. I'll just cut that out.
But you got through it.
I did. It's a different one today. Like usually we say, oh, we're super excited about this. This one's going to be
I'm still excited. I love a deep conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult conversation at times. But I think the reason I wanted to get Paul on the show is I think there's going to be topics that our audience can relate to.
Absolutely.
Like things like shame, forgiveness, accountability, purpose. Mm-hmm. I think all of those things kind of... and the big one, which you know I've wanted to talk about for a while, is alcohol.
Yes.
So I don't know if I've mentioned on the show before, I quit drinking about 4 months ago. And I've always wanted to do a show about it. And I think today we can have a chat about alcohol. So
Perfect.
Let me do a little intro. One decision can change everything. On a New Year's Eve over 20 years ago, Paul Turley made a choice that cost someone their life. He went to prison, served his time, but still faces the reality of what happened. Today, through his organisation What For, he speaks to young people about consequences, ownership and purpose, using his story to prevent others from making the same mistake. Thank you for making the trip up here. I know you do not live close.
Not at all.
Yeah, and really glad to have you on the show. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks so much, Tracy, Scott. Yeah, great to meet you. Finally.
Yeah, we've messaged back and forth on LinkedIn for over a year.
Yeah, we nearly caught up around your filmmaking abilities first.
Yes.
And then, went to catch up a couple other times.
Yeah,
and obviously so busy and
life
things
gets in the
happening,
way.
but
And
I knew we'd get there eventually.
Me too. I'm glad we could make it happen. I guess we'll go through a range of topics today, but I was thinking, what's my first question going to be? Because this will sort of set the tone, right? And I thought, why don't we just say, what were you like back then? Like, what did this event happen in your early 20s, or were you still a teenager?
It did. So it was early 20s. It was a couple of weeks after my 22nd birthday.
Right.
So a young man, a young man, I guess, probably only that couple of years out of school, and thought I knew everything, very confident. I'd had a good upbringing and had a lot of opportunity afforded to me, but I'd also had a couple of fairly dramatic events happen in my life in my sort of mid-teens, at a very formative time for a young person, and thinking that they had little to no effect on me. Looking back, they had a massive effect on me, and I basically spiraled out of control, and it was only a couple of years out of school that the life-changing event happened, which I'm sure we'll get to.
So context, like you can share or not share the events that sort of happened.
Yeah, so basically at around 14 or 15, my parents were close to separating. I didn't know that at the time. They always didn't really fight in front of us. But when I look back, there were times when you can now see they were growing apart, and they'd sort of have these arguments at night. And Mum was walking a lot and playing tennis a lot, and Dad was working really hard, but they were kind of just ships in the night.
Yeah.
And I had a grandfather pass away. An uncle, one of my dad's brothers, took his own life after suffering kidney failure for many years. He was on dialysis every day. you know, his own relationship then broke up. He lost his job. He couldn't work. His life was a mess.
Yeah.
And he, you know, once their father passed, I think it was a week or two later, Eddie took his own life. And it was only 6 to 12 months later that my parents separated as well.
Yeah.
So a couple of really big hits in close succession at a 15-year-old age.
It's a tough age. My parents
age.
were I was exactly the same age.
Wow.
14, I think, is that year 9? I'm pretty sure I was
about year 9 or 10. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a tricky age.
You're still trying to find your way in the world.
Yeah.
You're trying to be popular at school. I mean, I was, you know, as I said, I was quite an athlete at the time, and you know, when that happened, I kind of really resented Mum for finding, you know, meeting someone else and basically moving on rather than. And you think, how could this happen? You know, my family had been together for 20 plus years and it was all you knew, and all of a sudden that's breaking down. But rather than seek any help and get any help, and I guess it was a bit of a different time then, you know, 25, 30 years ago. So instead I just did whatever I wanted to do. I didn't listen to anybody. You know, Dad moved away about an hour away to keep working. We stayed with Mum. So I was the oldest of 3. So I had, my sister was 3 years younger and my brother was 8 and a half, nearly 9 years younger. So rather than sort of step into that father figure and that role model for them, I kind of modelled all the behaviours not to do, and, you know, just really sneaking out, drinking a lot, even at that sort of 14, 15, 16
and this would
age
be
group.
the late, because I think the time period is important. It's the late 90s? Or
yeah, it is. So I was born in
mid-90s?
82.
Yep.
So this is all through the mid. I remember going to the last big day out at the Sydney Showground. This was in Sydney where I grew up. So I've been in Perth since 2011. But I went to the last big day out. It was called 6 and Out, the big day out at the Sydney Showground before they moved it to the Olympic site.
Right.
And, you know, I would have been 14, I think there. It was about 95 or 96. We went to that one. Soundgarden played and Fear Factory as well, headlined, I think.
Yeah.
Not that I was into that heavy kind of music. Soundgarden was good. And then everything moved to the Olympic site because they were building Homebush Bay ready for the Sydney Olympics. And I remember my music tastes changed a little bit because then we got into the rave scene, you know, in sort of 96, 97. And I remember they opened up a couple of places that they were building, a couple of structures. They had raves, not illegal raves, but organised rave parties in there. And, you know, again, I wasn't constantly taking those types of party drugs, but on those occasions I would. We'd take some pills and speed and whatever was happening.
And you were still sort of 15 at that
about,
age?
From 14 to 16, 17, you know, those last few
That's
years
pretty
of school.
young.
What years? That's between Tommy and Ali's ages.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. It's young.
We started drinking. A few mates had older brothers, so they were sort of 2 or 3 years older than us at school, and they were already getting into stuff. So, I mean, I think 12 or 13 was when I started smoking weed.
Yep.
And, you know, then that became not as many as you could have, or the biggest cones you could smoke and things like
Buckets
that. So
You did buckets back then, didn't you?
we were out of control. We'd do diamonds where you could get a cone on top of a cone. You'd pack it down as much as you could. Like it was just ridiculous. You know, smoking in parks, morning, night. Like we were almost living a transient type lifestyle, like skipping school. I remember in year 10, year 11, I think the only reason they kept me in school was because I was swim champion every year. And I was showing promise at rugby as well. I was like captain of the sort of 15Bs, and then I made the first 15. You know, it wasn't so my school, I went to St Patrick's College, Strathfield, and what's amazing is I'm actually going to speak there in May, going back to my old school.
Wow.
So going across to do 4 talks and a men's retreat in May, late May. And so the school, that's been on my radar for 21 years ever since that night. But
and what sort of school was it? Because you've shared pictures of yourself on social media as a young person, like at that age, right? And I've looked at your photos. I went to school with that kid. Like I went to a public school that was, when I first went there, it was really rough.
Yeah.
As I went through, by the time I graduated, it was not as rough. But I don't know. Maybe I was reading too much into your photo, but I was like, I went to school with you. Like, does that make sense? I know that's
absolutely, yeah. And I guess, you know, when I talk to young people, I have to try and relate to them and show them that, you know, I was very much just like them. You know, I was, I wasn't a silly kid, but I wasn't the smartest kid. I tried really hard at sports and I had some potential at sport. But, you know, I had parents and teachers that loved me and did support me. But because of these couple of big things that happened in my life, and because of a big thing called ego, and struggling to find the balance between being confident and having a skill at something, and being cocky and sort of overstepping the mark and thinking I'm untouchable, nothing will ever happen to me. Typical teenager. I was not thinking about 5 years, 10 years, what might happen from my decisions. So that's a lot about what I talk about these days with young people, with everybody, but especially with young people, to try and get these messages into them before they potentially make a life-altering decision for themselves or for many people. Because once you do some of that, the ripple effects are huge. It can affect hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Well, why don't you tell us about the night that it happened?
Yeah, so it was a New Year's Eve. It was 2004, so just gone 21 years ago. I was at a house party just south of Sydney. I was actually at the same house party I'd been at 12 months earlier, so that was a bit of a sign that my life was really going nowhere fast. I was working at the time. I'd always worked ever since 12 or 13, but I'd deferred uni. I managed to just scrape through with a 62 HSC mark. I probably should never have even stayed in school. I should have left school at year 10 and got a trade, or gone to the army if I could have passed the test or something. But long story short, I stayed in school and I was just sort of floundering along, working different jobs, most of the time drinking and gambling it away. I was working in hospitality too, which is a great place to work when you're young. You meet a lot of people, you have a good time, but unless you're going to own a venue, you're not really going anywhere in that type of space. But
I'm guessing it's like a binge drinking. Like if I look back to the 90s,
it was a big time of binge drinking. I mean, so some of the stats, just to digress quickly, is at the moment it's about 31% of under 18s are drinking. When it was our age, it was over 70%.
Yeah.
We've been saying
more
this,
than double.
that there's so much
it's getting less and less
drinking now than what we had.
It
which is
really
great.
is, which is great. So the stats are heading, but then you've got added distractions these days of phones, which were never there 20, 25 years ago, which is almost worse.
Its part, though. I think part of the reason people don't get smashed the way we did is because when we did it, no one's going to record you and embarrass you and post it on.
There's nowhere to hide these days.
Yeah. But when you think about some of the states we got into,
absolutely,
you wouldn't want those recorded permanently, and I think that plays into it. So even though I don't love social media for kids, maybe that's one positive. I think it's impacting the fact that they're like, maybe I'm not going to get that hammered.
Yeah, absolutely. There's I'm sure there's many factors, including that one,
and that is based on no stats. Like that is
it's an observation.
And just in case Tommy's editing, Tommy, we didn't get up to anything. We were straight laced. Straight laced.
Edits the show sometimes.
So I guess my story is built on coming out about not being straight-laced, and that's what lots of people relate to, because we're human and we learn from our mistakes. So I guess I'll go back to this, what is the biggest mistake I ever made in my life, which was, so I'm at this party. My girlfriend had actually gone further down south, down to a place near Nowra, Bomaderry, for the night with her family. And I was supposed to go down there for New Year's, but all I wanted to do was go to this party and get smashed. Of course, that's all I did at that time. That was what I did every day, every week, And so I'm at this party and I'm trying to ring her at about 9:30, and she's not answering the phone. And I'd been drinking since sort of 2 or 3 that afternoon. Had the car parked out the front. She's not answering the phone, and I'm thinking, what's going on? Why isn't she answering me? And I'd been smoking weed as well. I hadn't taken any chemical drugs that night. But I'd smoked a few cones, maybe only 3 or 4, and I'd had lots to drink. And when she's not answering the phone, I just thought, this is unacceptable. I need to go and see what's going on. So in my ridiculous, jealous, egotistical mind, I thought, I'm going to go and see her and see what's going on. And it was just so stupid to A, think that I was okay to do that. B, I was going to try and drive over an hour and a half south. Didn't know where I was going. We had
that mission. It was that mission of, I want to go see what's going on.
It was me just being a stupid teenage with angst and jealousy, and thinking that something wrong was being done to me. And it ended up me doing pretty much the worst thing anybody could do. So I've got hold of my keys. A few people tried to stop me. Apparently I was, I imagine as well, I was quite argumentative and said, I'm going to get my keys. So a few people did try and stop me and try to hide them, or probably in circles say Paul Turley's trying to leave. But I got a hold of my car keys. I wish I never did. Wish someone punched me in the face or threw them in the river or something. I threw all my stuff, because I was planning on going down there the next day after I woke up and sobered up. Threw all my stuff in the car at about 10 o'clock that night, jumped in the driver's seat, looked back at the party, thought, do you know what you're doing? I thought, I know I was drunk, but I thought, I feel okay. I'm not totally out of it.
Yeah.
Started up the car and took off from the party at about 10:15 that night. And I remember trying to light a smoke. I had the old UBD street directory on my lap because we didn't have smartphones with maps. You had a phone, but I think I only got a phone at about 19 or 20.
Yeah. There was no maps on those phones?
No, we had no apps, just Snake. And that's about all we had.
Have Snake.
And I'm driving down this windy road in Illawong, and it all just started to catch up with me. And I could feel, tired more than anything. Like obviously slowed reaction times. I was tired, I was stoned and drunk. Yeah. And I'm getting confused because I'm trying to drive, I'm trying to light a smoke, and I'm trying to glance at this map. I should have just at least pulled over. If could have done anything except what I did, tried to persist. And I pulled onto what I thought was the freeway, and I'm flying down this road at, probably 80 or 90, something like that. Can't really remember much of the drive up until the next minute. And I look up, and there's a set of traffic lights and a T intersection, maybe 90 or 100 metres ahead of me and fast approaching. And I was just so confused because I thought I was on a freeway headed south, and all of a sudden you've got a decision to make, left or right. And I remember trying to sort of brake. The map slid off my lap into the footwell, so there's another distraction. I think the smoke fell out of my mouth. I just thought left or right. I started to turn the car left. I might have tried to drop a gear, but I was so out of it, I can't really remember the next motions. And I just remember the screeching tyres and bright lights, and then I hit something.
Jeez. Oh my God.
And what could have been 10 seconds or could have been a few minutes, I don't know. But I remember coming to, and I was sitting in the driver's seat looking at the wheel, and I knew instantly that I'd hit something. I'd had a smash.
Were you injured?
I didn't know that at the time, but I went to get out of the car to see what had happened more than anything, and see if I could help just work out what had gone on.
Yeah.
And I remember opening the car door, and I just kind of spewed out onto the road because that's when the pain hit. So I had this intense pain in my stomach. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't do anything except just lay there in blackness on the road, just like wailing. Yeah. And I remember people trying to talk to me, but I can't remember any faces. But there were people there, first responders that had come out of their houses not far away and were trying to help me.
Houses around.
Yeah, it was not residential, only a few 50 metres or 100 metres away, so I would have heard it. Yeah. And then I remember red and white, like sirens, and red and white, red and blue flashing lights, and being pushed under a red and white emergency sign into hospital, which turned out to be Cogra Hospital, where they saved my life that night.
Wow.
So I woke up. I don't remember going into surgery or anything, but I would have had surgery. I woke up and I was sitting in a big hospital bed, and Mum was sitting at the end of the bed where you're sitting. And I tried to talk to her. I tried to say what happened, but I couldn't talk properly because I'd smashed my jaw on the steering wheel and broken my lower jaw. So my mouth was sort of wide shut, and my tongue was like a football. It was all swollen up with dried blood. Obviously, this was only 8 hours, 10 hours after it had happened. And I looked down, and there was 40 staples holding my stomach together. And I was like, what's happened there? So I just said to Mum, what happened? What did I hit? And she didn't answer me at first, and I just had this terrible feeling. I just knew. I was like, I hit another car, didn't I? And she still didn't answer me. And I said, do we know who it is? Can I see them? Can I send flowers? And she just started to cry. And I just knew. My heart just sunk. I knew that was the moment that life would never be the same, that the decision that I made to drive that night had resulted in somebody else no longer being here.
Wow.
And
what a huge moment. Oh my God.
It was just so, for want of a better word, the most sobering moment of my life. Waking up to learn that that's where we were. This is what we're dealing with now. Yeah. And I don't know. Mum cried. I would have cried, and I tried to come to terms with what this meant, and what could have been, again, seconds or minutes. I said two things fairly quickly. One was they put people away for that. So I knew there was no more second chances. When I talk to young people these days, I say, when we make a mistake as humans, we're always so quick to go, it's okay, I can fix it, I can make it better, what can I do? This was done. I knew that this meant big repercussions. But I just didn't know what or when. And then I said to Mum, again, it could have been minutes, or I said, I'm still here, I'm still alive. Why am I here as well? And I said to her, I don't know how, Mum, or when, but I want to do something about this. I need to.
Straight away,
very quickly. I said, I need to do something about it, whether it's work with the police, which I've never done yet, or talk in prisons or do something. I just knew that I had to do something about it. Otherwise, why did this happen? Why did we go through this?
Wasted, like it's a...
Absolutely, like not only, the waste that I'd caused, but myself and I just saw, I straight away thought I need to do something about it. So
make this into something that's meaningful.
But it took a long, long time. It really did. So then I because of my injuries, which was actually 3 perforations to my large intestine, which is your bowel, which is where your poo is.
Yeah.
That material would have got out inside me. So they had to take me back in about 10 days later and reopen it up and do what they call a debridement or something. So clean it all out again. And then they let it heal slowly from the inside out, which took months. So packing this big open wound with saline-soaked gauze and cover. It was,
so you're
I
in,
was
you're in
so lucky for about a month in the end. And then for the next few months, I was doing it myself. But I was so lucky to A, survive, B, not still have my mental function, C, not be in a wheelchair, D, not have a colostomy bag for the rest of my life, and E, have the ability to step forward and talk about it, because there's just so many other factors that could have gone wrong that night, and I've always tried to look at some small positive, no matter how bad the negative is. And so, again, there's a lot to cover, but basically, I was charged at some point while I was still there in hospital over the next month, trying to let this thing heal, and I was released after at the end of the month, end of January, and it took months still of packing it to heal. And I ended up going to court. I pled guilty straight away. I was like, I did this. I mean, as I learned a little bit about the victim and that sort of thing, I thought, if the same thing had happened to my father, because he was a 62-year-old male chef just heading home from work that night, a similar age to what my father was at the time, or maybe slightly older. I thought if someone had done that to my dad or my brother, I would want them to do prison. So I was under no illusions that I had to pay for what I'd done, but I was also terrified. I knew I would know nobody. No one I knew had ever been to prison. I came from a pretty good school, a good home. And I was pretty terrified. And then I took the stand. I never got to face any of his family or anyone because he was from China. So I only got to face the Department of Public Prosecution for New South Wales. And I took the stand and spoke about my remorse and my feelings on the night and how this was out of character, and and I will forever, I think, be trying to explain myself about this, and I guess that's a big part of what I do these days. But I was sentenced. It was actually my girlfriend at the time. It was her 20th birthday, the day that I was sentenced. I was offered 2 weeks if I wanted to get my affairs in order, and I thought, well, 2 weeks, it will just be better going in now and get started. So 23rd of September 2005, I started a 2.5-year prison sentence for that. And then I did 2.5 years parole following that as well, before moving to WA in 2011 to try and rebuild and start my life. But, I look back, and 2.5 years is a small price to pay, really, isn't it? For it's how can you justify a time period or a monetary value for a human life? You can't. It's priceless.
How did your family and friends react and kind of talk to you about all this when this was going on, like before you went to prison? There was, again, I don't know, being the one doing it, there's a lot of friends and people that you maybe think are friends in your life that kind of fade into the background and maybe don't want anything to do with you after something like that. So I guess something like that, you find out who your real family and friends are. But, it was pretty devastating for my father. I could always see a fair bit of shame in his face around that time. Obviously, talking to he's got one sister and he still had 2 other brothers, and I think my grandmother on his side was alive at the time. But so my father, obviously the shame that he carried, and there's a photo that I use of me and him taken sometime between the accident and when I went to prison. I use that in slides when I do presentations, and it's just an old photo that really shows disappointment in his eyes and the shame that I held for what I did. But then mum as well. So mum only really confided in me in the past sort of 6 months, that it took her so long to show her face in public. Like she didn't want to go. And it took her 20 years to really talk about what she went through. But she came and saw me speak last year, which was great. She actually came to a school in Sydney and watched me do the talk. I bet she was proud then.
Yeah, that's it. I think she was, to see me honour this promise that I've made to her, that I want to do something about it, because it's the right thing to do. She was, she said, you've got a very powerful story there, Paul. And I think it was important for her to come to it. I'm glad that I got my brother to come see a talk and my sister to see a talk in Canberra, and my father actually watched me down in Melbourne once as well before Mum, because I knew Mum was going to be the hardest.
Yeah.
And I said, you need to sit right up the back in the corner there and not look at me, and I'm going to forget you're here.
There's no eye contact here. Yep.
But yeah, so you don't understand when you're that age. All I was thinking about was, the upcoming court case and prison, and am I going to get through this, and am I going to get bashed, and am I going to get worse than that, or what's going to go on in there, and how am I going to move on with my life? I'm still here. I've got to turn this around, one day. So I wasn't really thinking too much yet about how it was impacting other people, but it was obviously having a big impact. I mean, I also, my sister was 19, 20 at the time. My brother would have been 13, 12, like a young, not even a teenager. And the impact that it had on them as well, for all the right reasons. I guess this was so wrong, but I look at them now and the people that they are, they're amazing people. I was looking at doing a post. I did one a while ago, and I'm about due to do another one about them. Aww. Like the incredible people they've turned into. Like my sister is a Australian federal police officer down in Canberra. She only joined a couple of years ago, but she's quite driven, got a lot of leadership. My brother is a major in the Australian Army, 16 years. So again, he's risen above the poor examples that I set. That I should have been leading them and should have been showing them the way, and instead I was showing them all the things not to do, and culminating in this terrible, terrible thing on the 31st of December 2004. But so to see them learn from that example was great, and I guess that's a little bit then of what I do these days, because I know that this message and this story has the power to help so many other people, and we'll never know how many it might actually help.
And I totally agree with that, because I think when you're going out to talk to people and tell your genuine story, not just what could happen, what you're going to be worried about, but you actually standing up going, this happened to me. This actually happened to me. I think that's so powerful, because people would really get it through their heads that this, like you said, this isn't just I could get out of that, or it wouldn't happen to me, or no, it does. It happens.
And it can. And I was that young person who thought nothing will ever happen to me. I'm untouchable. I'm bulletproof. And when you're in that age group, that sort of late teens, early 20s, you don't think anything will ever happen to you bad. You're not thinking of 5 years or 10
And
years.
it's also not just like the drinking and things. Like I had, when I used to work for an agency that only worked with teenagers, one day I was going to go out to see one of my clients. I'd only seen her about 4 or 5 times, maybe 5 times, and someone from her family rang and said not to come for the appointment. She'd actually been killed in a car accident.
Oh my God.
And she was driving in a car with young people. She was in the back seat, and there was reckless driving. I don't think there was any alcohol or substances or anything. I think it was just reckless driving, and she was the only one in the car that died. And so obviously that family was devastated, and all the community and everything. But the crazy thing about this is Perth is very, very small for anyone that's listening around the world. And I tend to get lots of clients where I'm kind of like, I know your mum. I don't say that out loud, but I just would make the links. So anyway, I had this client, and it turned out to be the driver's brother. And he was coming in, and the reason he was coming in is because he had a lot of anxiety. And then he told me this story about his brother had this, and penny dropping for me going, oh my God, that's my client. That was the one in the car that died, which I did disclose to him because I thought it's important for him to know there was a connection here and stuff. But for him, the reason he was coming in is because he had so much anxiety about going to train stations and public places because of all the backlash of the things that his brother, was experiencing because of the choices he made. But he hadn't anything to do with it. And yet he had such a big effect.
The ripple effect.
Yeah, the ripple effect, like you were saying before.
Well, my sister, again, confided me years later about coming to visit me, a 19, 20-year-old woman walking into a prison for visits with numerous other inmates sort of all looking around. And, she didn't feel safe.
It's so intimidating,
So as I said, at the time, you just kind of try and get through it, which I did. I kind of went in there with the mentality of, you've got to do this. You're not in here to make enemies. You're not in here to make friends. You just got to kind of stay in your lane and do what you got to do.
Can I ask about that as well? Like with the prison? Like was that, was it as bad as you thought, or did you feel like it was manageable?
I think like anything in life, it's what you make it. If you go in there and you allow yourself to fall into, temptation in there, and there are drugs, there are gangs. I guess, again, quite lucky in a country like Australia where the prison system is somewhat, organised and regulated and looked after or controlled. So this was in Sydney as well, so I can't speak for WA prisons. I have been trying to follow a few avenues to work with young people in WA prisons and New South Wales as well down the track. But yeah, I was very lucky. When I went in, I was a young offender, and they had a program called the Adult Nucleus program. So you would go into a young offenders prison eventually. The first few weeks wasn't, which was terrifying. I can touch on that in a minute, but yeah, going in there, as I said, the first day I was about 80 kilos, and you go into a remand centre where you don't know what anybody's done. They don't know what you've done. You don't know what they've done. And I looked around, and I looked at some seriously dangerous looking institutionalised characters, and I just didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And my plan was to do some work, because I heard you could get a job. You didn't make any money really, but you had a job, and that would get you out of that wing for 8 or 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
So I walked straight up to the guard, like literally the first day I was in there, and said, "Is there any jobs, Chief? Is there any work?" And he must have seen the fear in my eyes, because the next morning I got moved to a working wing, which was a separate wing, which every morning you'd have your breakfast and they'd let you go and work for most of the day and come back.
Yeah.
So that was my tactic first.
And great for time wasting as well, like rather than being
You don't want to be
sitting
sitting in that wing. I mean, that's where people are going to, if they're going to prey on you, if they're going to try and groom you for stuff, that's where it's going to happen. So that was my first tactic, and that kind of worked. It took a few weeks. I went to another prison where it's since been closed down now. Old Parramatta Jail was built in the 1800s, it was old as, and it had like 8 communal showers for about 400 inmates. And I didn't shower for the 3 or 4 days I was there.
I wouldn't either. Oh
I
my
was
God.
lucky they sort of moved me, because a psychologist in the prison had actually noticed and said to me, "How are you going?" You know, they used to try and at least check in on you every now and then, being a young offender. And they said, you haven't showered, have you? And I said, no. And they said, you're probably not doing that because you don't want to get seen, but people notice things. And they're like, if you're here for another day or two, I would recommend that you just go and have a shower, because people will be also noticing that you're not showering. So there's lots of
all these
politics,
things
there's lots of scary stuff that goes on in there that is sort of unseen and unspoken about. But after that, I got moved out to Windsor, like a Western Sydney prison, which was a specific young offenders prison. They're still out there, John Moroney 1 and 2. And I spent about the next 6 months at John Moroney 1 before going out to a bush project where they take, it's about a 4-month project which you have to qualify for, and out there they did some really amazing things for young people.
This is good to hear.
You did like some bushwalks and camp overnight, lots of resilience and showing you what's in the world outside of prison, and they lots of skills. So we did like bricklaying course and operate a backhoe and cutting down trees with chainsaws and all sorts of things. Luckily, no one went mad with a chainsaw and attacked anyone. It wasn't quite like that, but so those programs were really beneficial. I could see them, and I think a lot of the other young people that were doing them, but I digressed. So basically the adult nuke program, which I believe they should still be running or might still run over there, was excellent, because you can imagine you had 200 or 300 people under the age of 25. The biggest, baddest 24 or 25-year-olds would run the place. But by having 5 or 10% of these older inmates that had done an 8 or 10 or 12-year sentence and were coming out the back of it, they kind of called the shots if anyone was sort of stepping out of line or doing too much, because a lot of them were.
You need that, because that sets the culture.
It does. It set the culture. It kind of, things still happened. There were still fights and arguments and all sorts of stuff, but it never got too out of control from my opinion, from what I could see in the time that I was in there.
Did you ever get targeted?
I came close a few times. I was very lucky. There was a time near the start where, again, just an somewhat innocent mistake. I had a visit, so Mum came in, and I can't remember if anybody else was there, but Mum was there, and we were having something to eat, and there's lots of other visitors with their families and the inmates, and then Mum kind of had a look at, I think a lady was bending over right near her, and she had a big lower back tattoo, and so Mum, just being Mum, so I said, "Oh God, look at that." And so then I sort of looked where she was looking, and the second I looked at this lady bending over, the partners looked at me and thought that I was perving, and I was just I shrunk into this. I was just like, oh no, I might have felt the blood drain from my face, because I'd also seen this guy in the yard shadow boxing, and he could seriously throw hands, and I was like, oh, if this comes to blows, I'm going to get absolutely worked over here. So I was pretty terrified of that. And then for the next week or two, I was kind of just trying to see where there was 4 wings, and I wasn't actually in his wing, but hoping that I could either explain myself or not bump into him again. And then I found out that he'd actually been moved to another jail a week or so later. So breathed a bit of a sigh of relief there. But look, I was, as I said, I tried to, you naturally do meet some people in there, and it's your life. I kind of talk about prison as when you're in there, you just kind of get on with it one way or another. And some kind of come out relatively unscathed, which I was lucky to do, and then others don't, and they just sort of end up in this vicious cycle. Over 60% of people that go back in within 2 years. So
did you make any, I probably watched too many American movies, but did you make any friends in there that you're still friends with?
Only really one or two. There's a couple on Facebook and things. We never really catch up much, maybe the odd message just to see how they're going and that sort of thing. I'm looking at starting a podcast this year called Inmates, which will be where I talk to people that have been inside.
I think that's a brilliant concept.
Yeah, and obviously having been a young offender and been inside myself, and maybe talk to people and so what they went through, what they're doing now with their life after prison.
Idea.
I think that's a really good idea.
So that's So again, a friend of mine, Paul Litwin, who helps me with a lot of things and to get my charity going. He's got a really good Men's Talk, which is his charity, based up in Scarborough. They're setting up a podcast station this year, so hopefully I'll run a few out of there maybe later in the year, which would be good. I'll have to definitely learn lots from you guys if I can on how to do it. Yeah. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I do still keep in touch with a couple, but not many. I didn't really want to. You kind of get out and you just want to grow and go again. You don't want to bog yourself down. And I'm sure it's the same for most of them. So a few people that I did sort of reach out to when I had that idea, about a year ago, a couple were like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't mind. And a lot were like, sorry, mate, but I don't want anything to do with that part of my life because they've tried to move on. And I totally appreciate that. It's not everyone has the... and I said to
drive is what you
as what I do, all the same story. Everybody's story and the the parts that make up that story are different. So I kind of always wanted to do something about it and honour that decision. But each to their own, and some people have come out and just want to move on with their life and rebuild and go again.
So tell what was the next step? So you got out of prison. What was it like even feeling like, oh my God, I'm getting out soon?
So I guess that's a big thing that I'd like to share with young people that are in prison is naturally when you get out, you're not fixed. Things aren't fixed straight away. And if anything, you want to make up for that lost time, So I think that's why a lot of people can find themselves getting into trouble. You've lost all this time, whether it be a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. And so you want to party again. People get out and start getting on it and can get into a lot of trouble very quickly. So
God, I never thought about that.
It's this lost time. And
So how old were you when you got out?
So I went in at 22, I got out at 25. Okay. Yeah. It was
still
March.
young. That's still very young.
Still young, 25. Yeah. So still a young man. I guess I fell back into working in pubs again. Probably not a good move for someone who's had, an alcohol related accident or incident.
What's one of the things I wanted to ask, right, is something you said earlier really took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting you to say it, which was immediately you wanted to make amends and make something positive out of it. You didn't go into despising yourself and shame and all of that, which for the sound like the person you were leading up to that, and then having that reaction, that surprised me. Yeah. Did you carry that through prison, or did you go through lows during
absolutely.
prison?
I think no matter who it is, you have highs and lows. That's just, as humans, we can't maintain something all the time. It has to be a balance. And I guess it came from, I said I did have a very good upbringing. Lots of, I didn't come from a broken home or a drug sort of riddled upbringing. So I was very lucky in that respect. And I'd done a lot of sport. I'd trained really hard. I knew what hard work was, and I'd had good role models in that space. So I was pretty quick to say, I want to do something about this, and I know that I can do something with it. But then it took a long time. It really did take a long time. I had to, as I said, get out, and I wasn't perfect at first. I was still finding myself slipping back into old ways. And that's a big part of why once I got off parole, because you're not actually allowed to leave the state when you're on parole. Once parole finished, which was 2010, was when not long after that I came to Perth.
Was that to leave that part of your life behind?
A big part of it, I think, was to get away from that lifestyle, working in pubs. Sydney was just, I wasn't going anywhere fast. I had no 5-year, 10-year goals. It was just working to live, living to work, and starting to get back into that drinking and gambling cycle with no real lifelong ambition or purpose, and straying from this promise that I'd made that I wanted to do something. So that's where, when coming to Perth, because I'd had the offer to, people had told me go to Perth, go into the mines when I was about 19 or 20, before the accident, and I didn't want to leave Sydney where all the fun was, the people, the parties were, and then this happened. So at 29, 10 years later, I finally did make that move and come to WA. And even in WA, I haven't been perfect since I've been here, but I started to put a lot of good things in place. So I became a father, which was one of the greatest moments of my life in 2012, lucky to have my daughter. And working in the mines, I've always been a hard worker. So again, I didn't have a trade or an engineering degree or anything to fall back on. So I just had to work hard. And the first job I did when I got here, I was with a recruitment agency, and I built the police station, ironically enough, in Northbridge. So just across from the arena, where the arena is, there's a big 3-level multi-storey police station with about 70 holding cells below. So I was working on that as a labourer. And they had 2 big tower cranes on site, and they said, "Do you want to get a dogman ticket?" I think one of the dogmen must have been leaving, the guys that hook up all the loads with the crane. And so they actually saw some potential in me. They paid me for the week to go and get this ticket, and I started working with the cranes. And then after a little while, the rigging company that did all the roof and the steel and everything came in to do that. And I thought, well, that's another step up again. And I jumped on with them. And from there, I actually started to do a few FIFO projects and and I did my first away FIFO project when my daughter was born at the end of 2012, and then got into a couple of really big projects where I was doing some massive lifts and installing some massive stuff, and just kind of went from there, just worked really hard, always, did what I needed to do, knew that there was, the great thing about mining was for the most part, it doesn't care where you've been, what you've done. If you come in and you work hard and you ask questions and you show up, there's an opportunity there. So that was really great for me, and it has been really great to this day.
So when you were going through that and you were feeling like, okay, this is I'm moving forward and things are working out for me and stuff, was there ever thoughts and things that were pulling you back to what had happened, and or even did you share that with people, or did you keep it all really quiet?
I guess, and that's great leading question. So I was not fixed, not by a long shot. I was, for 80-90% of the time, I was good on the exterior, but I hadn't dealt with all this trauma that I'd caused and been through and was now carrying, even though, again, I was always good at hiding things and suppressing things and just putting on a brave face, as men statistically do. It'll be fine. I'll just make the money and we'll get in a house and we'll be okay. But my relationship with my daughter's mother was deteriorating rapidly, because 9 times out of 10, everything was great. And then this other time I was resenting being taken to the other side of the country, away from all my mates and things and family. And I was working for 4 weeks at a time up in the mines when I was missing my young daughter. The first 2 years of her life, I was working 4 and 1 on these construction projects.
Oh, that's a big chunk of time when a baby grows so much in 4 weeks.
You only saw her 10 times in a year. Like my memories of her in the first couple of years, every time I saw her, she changed massively. So my relationship has always been a bit strained with my daughter, or not as strong as I would like it to be, even to this day. But I've gone off topic there.
No. Well, I think you were asking about
whether it came back up for you to think about.
So absolutely.
You're working hard and pushing.
I'm working, and it kept resurfacing. And so then so I tried to quit smoking. So I was smoking cigarettes still and drinking intermittently. So I found that, but I was training really hard as well. So one thing someone told me in jail, which I took with me and I keep with me for the rest of my life, is training keeps the flies away. So someone said, when I was scared and fearful and didn't really know anyone, and I met this guy and he goes, "Mate, one thing you can do," he goes, training keeps the flies away. And I thought that's a really good saying for life, because whether it's physical training, whether it's mental, whatever it is, emotional, social, if you're bettering yourself, it just helps you be that little bit better prepared for the hurdles that life will inevitably throw at you.
And I also think in terms of energy, you're putting it somewhere. Like if you're lifting weights, if you're doing something, you've got somewhere to put that energy. Otherwise, it's just sitting inside you.
It just sits there. And so I was really conscious that I wanted to do something physically and continue what I'd done in jail, because in jail, the back sort of year and a half, I trained really hard and I put on 20 kilos, and I thought if I'm getting out, I'm going to feel good and be healthy. So, because I forgot as well, my girlfriend, the one that I was going to see that night, she lasted about the first year, and then she left me after about a year. So I don't blame her. We were kids. I was 22, she was 20. 2.5 years seems like a lifetime when
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
young. So
Was that devastating though?
it was devastating because she was also. I wrote a lot. I journaled, so that's another thing that I talk about these days. I write everything down every morning. If something pops in my head, if a great post or a great idea to put into a talk or whatever it might be, I jot it down.
Yeah.
Because
pen
if
and
it's
paper
here,
or on your
phone or paper, whatever I can. Both. Same at work. I'm old school and I've got a book and I write everything down. But a bit
So
of
you were
both.
doing that all through prison? You were.
I wrote every single day. I've still got the 4
That's
journals that
amazing.
I've
That's a
got.
book right there.
Yeah, so that's right. And again, some of them aren't. I wish I could have got, because I wrote her so many letters as well, and like love letters, stories, all sorts of things. And I guess that's what then led me to today to being a bit of an author these days and writing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always wrote and I always trained every day, and I got out and I've tried to continue those things because I think that message still rings true, is that training in some way, shape or form, no matter what you're improving, is always going to help you deal with the
Well, I think
problems
both
that
of
get
those
thrown
things,
at
you're
you.
honouring yourself.
Yeah.
You're coming back to yourself. You're doing something just for you.
Yeah.
You're coming back to your centre. Like when you're writing, you're really having to figure out, whatever's going on for you, or putting down what's coming to mind. And when you're training, again, you're honouring yourself because you're going, I'm taking this time for myself.
Yeah, and it's hard because there's only so many hours in the day. And I think, again, when a lot of people working in the mines, you're working 12, 13, 14-hour days with travel. You're literally eating, sleeping and working.
Yeah.
You need that 1 hour for yourself, something that you can go, I'm not just eating, sleeping and working for the man. I've got an hour that's doing something for me. And it doesn't have to be heavy weights. It could just be swimming or walking or
something
running
to
or
move
whatever.
your body.
What was your relationship like with alcohol when you got out of prison?
So it was, still not great because I thought I'd been missing out.
Yep.
That thing where, and there was a time too where I was doing work release, because in the last 6 months, if you've proven yourself for most of your sentence, you qualify with an ankle tracker. Some people get to go home on weekends. I never got to go home on a weekend, but I got to work for a couple of months, and you make a little bit of money, so you've got something when you get out.
That's
And I
clever.
remember there was a few people that used to meet up with us, and someone got me a beer, so I was able to have a beer after 2 years of not having one. And again, silly things, when you look back on it. But I got out, and the relationship was growing again, and it was getting worse. And so,
And were you clocking that as it was happening?
no, it's one of those things that it really, because I guess it's so cultural, it's so socially
It's so-
accepted
yeah.
in Australian culture. It always has been there in the
People
background.
actually tell me that they feel odd if they're not drinking. Like people will comment on it, or they feel like, I can't go there if I'm not drinking. People will say something. And I sometimes have to work with them around acceptance of that's okay. You don't have to be like everybody else. And, lots of people nowadays do it for different reasons. But yeah, I think because our
abstaining,
culture.
you mean? Like,
abstaining.
yeah.
Like of not going to the party and drinking and whatever
Yeah.
else. Lots of people will be like, oh, you're wuss or you're this or you're that. And they get the
Yeah.
comments. But I think nowadays that is changing, especially with the younger ones. But our era, your mine and
Yeah.
Scott's era, drinking was huge.
Paul wrote a post. I'm not going to read the whole post, but I'll read that first line because it resonated with me a lot, and I think it resonated with a lot of people because I looked again yesterday. There was a number of comments. If alcohol were invented today in Australia, it would not be approved.
Yeah.
And then you went on to sort of explain all the reasons why
Yeah.
that would be. And I read that and went, it's so right. Yeah, like what you were saying, babe, this culture of, aren't you having a beer?
Yeah.
Which I've found even in the last 4 months. People are uncomfortable that I'm not drinking. So I'd love for you to explain, maybe start with the post and then like what prompted you to write
Well,
it.
actually, go back to when you stopped your drinking, because you were obviously still drinking for a bit.
Yeah, so I was, as I said, obviously trying to drink less and less and less. And the way that I quit smoking was to basically not get drunk for a year. I was like, right, every time that I do have a drink, it was every sort of 3 or 4 weeks, I would give in and have a drink. And I was like, if I can not get drunk, because when drinking for me too, going back to that culture, it wasn't just having 2 or 3, it was drinking till you have 10 or 15 or you can't really drink anymore.
Yeah.
That was the problem. It was the binge drinking had to be done. You were a wuss if you just had 2 or 3. Where are you going? Come back. It's your shout, mate.
Yeah.
Things like that. There's an old saying I'm sure you would have heard, like from our generation, even from the one before, which was, if you drink and drive, you're a bloody idiot. But if you make it home, you're a effing legend. That was a true, like, guys would finish work and they'd have a bloody King Brown between their laps. driving home,
yeah.
Very
that.
cultural.
And even when I came to Perth, after all this stuff, I've come to Perth, and some guys I used to work with, where I was learning to do what I do now, now that I supervise, but when I was learning to be a rigger and things like that, guys would literally finish work and go straight through the closest bottle shop, like wherever that was, straight through the closest Thirsty Camel, crack open a drink. They couldn't be
wait.
more than 10 minutes out of work before they're into the drink. And I'm like, why are we doing this? What is the obsession with this?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't easy. So I managed to quit smoking at 32, right? So 10, 11 years ago now. I still haven't completely quit drinking. I've got control of it, but it was really, really hard. I managed to do, so I did 8 months when my partner Tash told me that we were having our son.
Yep.
And she looked at me and she said, will you stay off the drink with me? I'm not drinking for 8 months. I'm pregnant. And I said, okay. And I did 8 months.
Yep.
And I did it pretty easy in the end. And I felt fantastic. And I trained because all of a sudden, all the other good things I was doing were actually coming out because I wasn't also drinking.
Yeah.
And what was your, just to give context, what was your drinking routine like at that point?
It had, well, actually, so when I'd just gone through separation a year or two earlier with Aurelia's mum, I was wallowing in some self-pity because financially we were ruined. We were starting again.
Yeah.
If she couldn't have the house that we built not far from here in Ellenbrook, then I couldn't have it. So I had to sell this house after paying for it for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Sold it just to draw even and pay debt. So basically we paid off, I was just paying for this house in Ellenbrook and I could feel our relationship slipping apart. And I was starting to drink more because I'm dealing with all these problems and I'm trying to work, but I could feel this was going to end soon. And I thought, something has to happen here. So when we finally did part ways and I was in the house for a few more months trying to work out how I was going to sell this house. And there were times there where, there was just me there at night without my daughter, without my ex, without anybody. So I was starting to go through way too much alcohol. I remember a time when I bought a 1 litre bottle of vodka and a case of beer, and I drank probably half the case of beer and was well into the bottle of vodka. And I remember waking up in the bathroom, with blood on my face where I'd fallen over and probably tried to go to the toilet or be sick or something, smashed my head on the basin. Again, just a mess, mess because everything was so far from where I thought I would be by that point in my life. And all of a sudden I had no control over it. So what am I going to do? Like what most guys do. I'm just going to medicate. I'm just going to drink until I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Block it out, numb it out.
So because the thing that really strikes me is alcohol played such a pivotal part in this life.
The catalyst for my story.
Yeah. And then you come out, because obviously you're forced to be dry in prison.
Yep.
You come out and you start drinking again, and then and then you're having situations like this.
Yep.
So do you define yourself as an alcoholic?
So that's a great question, and no one's ever asked me that. And I've never told that story about waking up drunk in the toilet before. There are many others as well that, but what I had to realise is that pretty much all of my greatest failures in life, including the biggest one, are attributed to alcohol. And that was so hard for me to actually acknowledge and accept because of how I'd grown up, because as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, that's what we did. You drank and you drank until you were smashed. I remember having a gathering, we used to call it when it wasn't a proper party.
They're called gathers now.
15 or 20 people around to my parents' house there in Strathfield in Sydney. And I got this bottle of tequila. I could never ever touch tequila again after this, but I got a bottle of tequila and I remember waking up passed out next to the pool as a 13 or 14-year-old. So when that's done then, that kind of sets the standard and it's very hard to break that. But I finally acknowledged, maybe only about 4 or 5 years ago that alcohol is attributed to all the greatest failures of my life. And so I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm an alcoholic, but I'm pretty close. Yeah. And I know that the person that I am when I'm on alcohol is a completely different person from when I'm not. And the goals, like the relationships I have, the goals that I hit, the father figure that I am, the friend that I am, the partner that I am, the leader that I am, is just such a better person, so far removed from the person who's drinking, whether it be...
And it's crazy, isn't it? I was just thinking when you said about drinking, when I was 16, so Tommy will probably hear this story. I went out with a friend. We have a drive-in here in Perth. It's still actually going. We went to the drive-ins. And we were drinking at the drive-ins. I think she had an older cousin, the girl I went with, and so he got us some alcohol. And the next thing I know, I'm waking up in a hospital bed with my my name on my wrist. And I remember thinking, am I in the sick bay at
school? Or something?
I was just thinking, well, am I in the sick bay at the drive-ins? Is there a sick bay at the drive-ins? Because the last memory I had was being at the drive-ins.
Blacked out.
Yep. No, I was in hospital. And what it actually turned out was we'd gone from the drive-ins where I was drinking back to a friend's house. I think we continued to drink. And then I'd wandered off. I don't know why I wandered off. And this is where it just makes you think, gosh, you could have the split-second, decision that's changes
Step
your
out
life.
onto the road
yep,
when you
exactly.
don't know.
Fall in hit the back of my head, whatever. Anything could have happened. I ended up passed out in front of a person's house. It was raining, and I just was passed out. So I think they called the police because obviously there's a random girl on their lawn, and the police wouldn't put me in their car because I might have vomited. So they put me in an ambulance, and that's how I got to hospital. Wow. And I remember when I woke up in hospital, and I was thinking it was the sick bay of a drive-in. I remember thinking, oh gosh, I can sneak out, and then I saw my wrist having my name on it, and I was like, shit. They know who I am.
I'm here.
They know who I am.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then a nurse comes in and she says to me, oh, you're awake, blah, blah, blah. Your dad's on your way. Dad's on his way.
And you're like,
I shat my pants. I was like, holy McMolly, this is going to be bad. My dad's firm. my dad's gruff and firm, and you don't mess with my dad. And so I knew I was going to be in big, big trouble.
Yeah.
And then obviously I came home, and my consequence was actually not only grounding, but I had to pay the ambulance bill. And back then, as a 16-year-old, I'm pretty sure it was like $330.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
$330, and I was on a part-time
Dad's
worker
lesson.
at Chicken Treat. Yep. And I remember the shame of even that. Yeah. I remember going back to work, and one of the kitchen hands was quite a good artist. He'd drawn a picture of me under a tree with rain and ambulance and whatever. So the shame of it, I mean, we made a joke of it, but it was a lot of shame. Yeah. And in my family, I lived with my dad and my two of my siblings. I felt like a pariah. I felt like they were ignoring me. They were just like looking at me with judgment, and it took a while for me to kind of get back in good graces, for that. And so it was such a moment where you go, that was just me having fun with my friends, and anything could have happened from that. I mean, it did happen something bad. I was in hospital and but it could have been like you. I could have been in a car.
You wouldn't have known. If someone said jump in this car, you would have just jumped in.
I was obviously walking away from the house. Anyone could have grabbed me. Anything could have happened. And I just think, God, that's so scary. So I think the fact that it's reducing now with the alcohol, is amazing. Because even as a counsellor, especially with teenagers, when I was doing that for a lot of years, I would have to talk to kids around how much are you drinking and what is the buzz you're wanting? And are you eating before that? And does that affect your buzz? Yes, it does. So you need to make sure that you're eating so that you're, otherwise you're having less alcohol, because otherwise it's going to hit you, stronger. And also about if you're getting on a bus at night time and you're hammered, is that safe for you? No, it's not. So really a lot of risk stuff, risk assessments and safety around it. And even I literally talk to adults now. They could be in their 40s even, and I have the same conversation. How many drinks does it take you to get that good buzz? They can't tell me. I'm like, why can't you tell me that? And they're like, I never thought about it. Yeah. I'm like, well, just when you drink next time, when you get to the point where you feel really good, notice how many drinks you've had. That's your sweet spot.
That's a limit, yeah. That's somewhere to stop.
You don't need to keep going after that, because otherwise now you're getting into the point where you're not remembering and you're not feeling good, and now you're feeling nauseous or headachy or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a moment that people start to become aware of. I certainly did, but you still couldn't stop it, is when you were not remembering parts of the night from maybe 11 or 12 o'clock onwards, where you hit that point of drinking. It could be when you've switched from beer to spirits, or when you just... And I don't even know whether that's something that progressively gets worse over time, whether you're then losing parts of your brain that may not recover properly and things like that. Yeah. So
back in our day, there was a lot of shots. Yeah. People go to the bar, they have shots, and you're more likely to take a shot if you're hammered because you don't care. You don't even notice it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember being in... I look back at my drink like I was a binge drink with the mates on a Friday night. I rarely would do 2 nights in a row just because I have the most sensitive body in the world, and my hangovers were horrendous. I think if my body could handle it, I probably would have done it.
Took you all weekend to recover.
Pretty much. Yeah. And so we would go to Northbridge on a Friday night, and you'd have the 6-pack at the house before we went. And that was always my favourite part of the night, because that's the part, the pre-drinks. You're having conversations, you're chatting, you're laughing, and you're not smashed yet.
And you got the anticipation of the night, of how fun it's going to be. Yeah.
Which was never lived up to expectations. Like a night out in Northbridge, for anyone overseas, Northbridge is, I guess, the place right next to Perth that is got all the pubs and clubs. Yeah. And in the 90s, a bit of a rough place to be honest.
Like a little mini King's Cross almost.
Yeah, pretty exactly. Yeah. And The nights were never good. It was always too loud to have a chat. And you just got absolutely blitzed to the point where you're ordering Sambuca and chartreuse at 2 a.m. at the bar because you think you need to be drunker.
Yeah.
And then you wake up the next morning and you have a bit of a laugh. And that was good. Like, we slept over at our mate's house and that was a fun time because, again, in the morning, you're sort of laughing, oh, you did this and you did that. But the actual part of the being hammered
is usually never good.
It's never
And
good.
You don't know what's going on as well.
Yeah.
You don't know what could happen.
Yeah.
That unpredictability between 11 or midnight and 4 or 5 a.m.
Yep.
That's when so many people, I think, get into trouble. And there's been some really big ones in the news lately with the fella from MRL who was a member of the Labor Party. Again, we'll never know what went on that night, but ended up getting hit by someone and fell back, hit his head and brain damage, and he passed away a week or two ago. So he was instrumental in the Labor Party getting in a few years ago, and he's an advisor at MRL. Yeah. Then you've got the doctor just got sentenced yesterday for high-speed driving and drink driving.
What did he end up getting?
I think he got about 9 years in prison. So it's a 10.5-year sentence or 11-year sentence, but I think about eight
He's another
non-parole or
perfect
something.
example. This doctor that was driving was drunk, hit somebody, they died, and he's got an amazing career. He would have had an amazing
huge career. He's like mid 40s, very successful, but he was going through and the unbelievable footage that they aired yesterday was actually taken from inside his own Jaguar as he was driving, and I think he was going through separation with his partner, so he's basically going on this drunk rant, screaming at her, you've taken my effing house and you've taken this and you've taken that, and he's doing 130 down a residential street, and then you see this crash unfold.
How does that make you feel when you see that?
It was pretty chilling when I watched it because, as we said, there was nothing, no dash cam footage, no smartphones when and I was 21, 22 at the time. It was a little bit different, I guess.
Yes.
It's still terrible and there is no mistaking that, but I guess I was still in an age where you're not thinking.
Yes.
So, and I guess, again, that shows you that alcohol, you are not thinking. Because this was a very rash person that brings children into the world and saves people's lives and things like that. And then the next minute, some terrible trauma is going on and he drinks to the point where he's incoherent and not making rash decisions, and he does that.
Yeah.
You know, it's so sad for him, for her family.
It's the whole situation, isn't it? It's just that whole ripple effect like you talked about.
Yeah.
And I always think that because so many times, even though you're on the road just in a normal, situation, you could think, oh gosh, that was a near miss. I nearly got that motorbike, or I nearly didn't look at that car when they were turning. Like, there's so many things that could be that moment in time that your whole world could just change in a dime. Like,
there's just more people on the roads these days. This is what I talk about with young people. So there's a lot more people on the road. I ask them, I say, why are statistics going up? Because they are gradually going up. And there's more people, there's more distractions, so there's smartphones. And the world is quick, it's fast.
Yes.
Everything's moving so fast. I mean, even driving here today, it was an hour drive here. So many people are just casually sitting 10, 15, 20 Ks flying past me. I'm sitting at 101 on the freeway and they're 115, 120. People goes past one, then another one goes past him, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Do you not realise? And like sitting, this table length behind the next car. And I'm like, if he brakes or if something happens and he leans over, you're going to go straight up the bum.
Yeah. I like those ads where they show you that braking distance of if you're going to brake here, it's going to take you this long to slow down.
Well,
I think that's what you need.
So at 60 kilometres an hour, it'll take 45 metres to stop the car in the dry, 54 in the wet. If you go up to about 90 or 100, it takes a football field. So at 100 kilometres an hour, it takes 100 metres to stop the car.
Wow.
So if that car brakes in front of you, how are you going to stop? How are you going to stop? You are not. And I tell that to young people. I say, how much does a car weigh, the average car in Australia? And they're like, it's about 2 tonne. So you've got 2,000 kilograms of vehicle moving at that speed. And think about people next to you, people cutting in front of you, how fast you're going behind someone else. You need to just be patient. Just sit back a bit.
I think it comes back to what you were saying before about people think they're invincible.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen to me. Or my reactions are so good that I'm going to be fine. Or
they get this complacency, this unproven level of, they think that they're a better driver than they are. But that's one thing that I talk about too with, the older generations is people never think of the worst consequence. They think of having to explain to their partner or their boss, sorry, I've lost my license for a couple of months, or I got a big fine. They don't think about standing in the docks of a court looking a father in the eyes of a little girl that just run over or something like that, or sitting in prison like that poor doctor, well, not poor doctor, like that doctor is now sitting there because of what he did.
But I
for the
still
next
think
9
poor doctor,
years.
as much as he made that decision, I always just think that wasn't an intent
How did he
there.
get to
I
that?
get that. I just
Where
have
did he
compassion
not
for,
get that help earlier so
Yep.
that they said, mate, you need some counselling, you need to step away from work, you need to get off the drink. Where was that help before that night happened? Because that then could have been avoided, and so many people could have not gone through that and now be going through that.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I want to get with you to finish off this conversation around alcohol. And you basically said, you've gone through prison, you've sort of got back on it, you've had some tough times, break up, you've had things happen in your life where you're drinking again. What happens next?
So a couple of things I talk about is, accountability and ownership really sets you free, and having a purpose, to guide you. Unfortunately, we've gone through this tragedy that's kind of helped me really identify my purpose, and I've decided to do something off the back of that. And I try and get that message into young people that if you can identify and find your purpose and your passion earlier in life, you'll set yourself up in your 40s or 50s for life, and you won't have to be struggling like I am now in my mid 40s and trying to make something of something terrible. But I've gone off topic badly.
No. The question is coming back to alcohol.
Yep.
So you sort of fell back
purpose.
into it.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know
how we're pulling out of it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so again, I started doing endurance events not long after coming to Perth. I'd always had that sporting background, and a friend of mine told me about the Roto swim. So, and I, being a swimmer when I grew up, I thought that's a big swim when I looked into it, 20 kilometres. But I thought, no, it'll be a great thing to look back on one day and tell the grandkids about. And I thought, and if we're going to do it, let's raise some money for charity. So I did the Roto swim solo in 2017 and raised
Solo, you did solo.
the first time solo. Only just made it, but we raised $8,000 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, of which my little cousin she went through Hodgkin's lymphoma, leukemia, as a teenager. Great person she is. She's on the board of the charity now, and she's a drive time radio announcer up in Darwin. She's an amazing human being, has owned a business for 10 years, really great little person. But she was quite a bit younger than me. So she's I think 10 or 11 years younger, and grew up in Brisbane where I was in Sydney. So when I cast my thoughts back, I think she even wrote me a little letter in prison. My uncle, her father had said, cousin Paul's in some trouble, he's in prison. And I remember her writing me a letter. And we touched base a few years. So the first thing I could think of was when I was going to raise money was something for the charity that helped her. Mm-hmm. A couple of years later, I was doing a whole bunch of other endurance events in that time, and doing them because they kept me on the path. When I was doing endurance events, I found that you don't have time to drink and be silly here. You're stepping into an event. You want to try and give it. And I have done a few events where I was having the odd drink, and I've only just sort of made it, and I was like, right, you need to be better next time. And case in point, when I went and did the New Zealand race last year, I didn't drink for 13 months leading up to that race. I had 13 months off alcohol, and I finished this epic, huge race, goes from one side of New Zealand to the other, and raised 20 grand for a mental health charity.
That's amazing.
So every time you test yourself, and every time you be accountable for what you've done, and you bring other people into the fold. So once you start raising money, you're not only do you not want to let yourself down with this event, but there's other people now invested in it, and you don't want to let them down either. The charity, the people that have supported your campaign. Yeah. So the idea was always to, as I said, do something about this and try and honour the memory of the victim, because I can't go back 21 years and not do what I did that night. But I thought, how can I, as I said, continue to make a difference from it and help people from it? So that's where I was like, rather than just raise money for other charities, I'm going to start my own charity, and that way I can tell this story in all ways, shapes and forms, regionally, with people that really need to hear it, young people. And it's not just about the alcohol, it's also about just in general, making good decisions, trying to find a purpose. So I talk a lot about legacy, improvement, support and time. It's a list, so 4 things, LIST. And so it's very hard to see when you're young, but we get a little bit older and we think about, what are we going to leave behind for our kids, for our grandkids? How are they going to remember us when we're gone? Because we're mortal. We don't live forever. Yeah. So what legacy are we going to leave? I is for improvement. So whatever you're about to do today, or whatever you were thinking about, going and having a fight with that guy because he looked at your partner the wrong way, or jumping in that car after having those drinks because your girlfriend's not answering the phone. Whatever you're about to do, is it an improvement to your mental or physical health?
That's a great question.
If it isn't, don't do it. S is for support. who supports what you're about to do. Okay,
Oh.
I mean, think about who really has you, not the ones that you're just hanging around because you like to have a drink with them, who actually cares about seeing you step into the person that you're born to be, your mum, your partner, your kids, the small circle. Because I talk about, you would have heard the one that 3 to 5 people that make up who you are.
Yeah.
You're the direct result of the 3 to 5 people you spend the most time with. So if they're rubbish people, think about the person you're going to be. If you've got 5 quality people around you, the person you're going to become is also great.
Yeah.
And the last one is time, T for time. And, it's the most precious commodity we have as a human.
Yeah, it really
you
is.
can't buy more of it. So it's so crucial
People don't
that
get
you are.
that. People don't really
and
understand that.
especially young people, you start to realise it a bit in your 30s or maybe your 40s when
Yeah.
you look at your parents and you're like, these people were never going to die, and they maybe only got 10 or 15 years left.
Yeah.
So that idea of
Your kid
mortality
grows up
starts
fast
to come
and
into
you're
you.
like, holy
And
moly,
the
how
kids,
did that happen?
you come to Perth and all of a sudden you've been in Perth for 15 years and you're like, hang on, that seems like 5 years. Where did the other 10 go?
Yeah.
So the time is just so critical. I talk about people, do you actually realise how long a life is? The adult Australian male lives for 81 years, female's 85, right? It's a good life expectancy, but do you know how many weeks that is? It's scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
4,200.
Yeah.
4,000.
And then you get told how many you've lived already.
That's right. So we're over halfway, but we got to sleep for a third of that time.
Yeah.
You got to sleep for 7 or 8 hours. You've got to study or work for a third of that time as well.
Yeah.
So that only really leaves a very short window of time for you to do what you want to do with all the people that you love doing it with, and the people that have your best interests and want to see you, step into that potential.
Yeah.
So it's just so critical to make good decisions. And it's not all doom and gloom. Like if you're organised and structured and you've got goals and you've got plans, then you can slow down time. You can really control it rather than it control you and it slip away. But so that's a lot of what I try and help people realise these days. I don't know if I really went off the topic
No,
there.
we
I
love
don't-
that. We love it. We love a side tangent.
You should know about this podcast. I mean, we're almost done, but we go all over the shop.
Yeah.
So it's totally normal for this show to go in lots of different
So
directions.
can I just ask, so how did you get into the schools? How did you start doing that bit?
Yeah, so I identified, I started talking to a few businesses first and a couple of sporting clubs, and people said to me, this is really a message for young people more than anything. And it's true. It works on a lot of levels. It works for older people because, as we said, the older generation was the ones growing up doing a lot of drinking and maybe need that back in check in their 40s and 50s because they're quite complacent and it'll never happen to me as well. But young people are not thinking of the future. So I reached out to the RAC about 18 months ago, 2 years ago. And when
That's an
I went,
insurance company for anyone that's not.
yeah, pretty much
Yeah.
the biggest road insurer in WA, kind of like the NRMA over east. But yeah, so I reached out to them, and then I heard as well that they did this really big, powerful event every year as well, where they do a live reenactment of a car smash with the Jaws of Life and the fireys and the ambos and the police and everything. So
Where do they do that?
they do that at the arena, the
Yep.
Perth Arena. So I ended up meeting a couple of their campaign managers and the lady who organises all of that, Emma Croft. We made a video together because she already had her sort of plan set for the day, but she said, I want to really incorporate this story because it's a different angle. It's obviously you've always got, and thankfully it's great that people talk and share their story in any avenue, but you've got a lot of people coming from the victim side, which is, they've terribly lost a son or a daughter or a parent. Whereas this is a different angle. This is someone taking ownership for a terrible decision.
Yeah.
And there's power in that because
So much
it
power in
shows people that, okay, we don't want you to do this, but a little bit later in life and we've got a bit more life experience and we've all made mistakes and we think, and it's showing them that a mistake doesn't have to be the end, right? You can use that as a learning platform for other people, for yourself, firstly, to improve yourself and then to potentially save other people.
It doesn't have to define you.
No, that's right. You don't have to let the mistake define you. What you do after that, everything after that is what defines you. And so that's why I was always like, at some point when you're ready, you need to do this. And it's been the last 18 months to 2 years, we've started doing something about it. So.
How brilliant. That is so powerful. I'm like, can we get him to Tommy's school?
Well, and you're getting back to the school. So they showed this video. We made this 7-minute video last year. It's on again in March this year and they'll show it again. But yeah, so that was shown to 17,000 high school students over 2 days in Perth. I'd already done 1 or 2 schools just before that. I did Hale School here in Perth and then I went and did some regional schools. I did Narrogin, Boddington, Bridgetown, Kojonup, little schools that, statistically road incidents are worse in the regional areas because there's further to drive. It's maybe a bit of a cultural thing. There's less police around. There's less education.
Even farm accidents, apparently. Lots of farm
very
accidents.
bad.
People driving, cars on paddocks and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So I went out and did a few of them. And then that's when I also realised, like, they don't have the kind of financial support and the kind of budget, because I've at least got to cover my time going out there and preparing the talk. And then I had another really great idea too, which I've started doing with the schools after the very second school I did. And that was, rather than just go in and drop this huge story on them, because it was getting them talking and it was getting the result. But I thought I need to leave something with them, like a little reminder. So I had this idea that, in every car, I don't know whether you're supposed to or not, but you've got an air freshener that hangs from the windshield. So I had this air freshener made up with that legacy, improvement, support and time message on the back and what for on the front.
Yeah.
And I printed 4,000 of them last year and took them into the schools. And so at the end I say, I've got a poster here which the school will keep, and it's got the school emblem or shield on it. And it's a pledge poster. You don't have to sign it, but if you listen to what I said today and you'll just do 3 things for me, I'd love you to sign it. And so it's just pledge to make smart decisions when you're out there on the roads. Step in if you see your family or friends are about to do something silly. If you can't stop them, that's fine, but at least try.
I like that step as well,
Yeah. And the last one is just try and be the best version of yourself. Just try and follow that direction and that purpose. And if you can do those 3 things, come up and sign it. And I've got posters from last year. I did 22 high schools, 4,500 kids in the first year. And, not everybody signs it, but you got a good 70 or 80% of kids come up, sign it, and then they get the air freshener. So I'm really trying to start a bit of a movement with that, because
perfect.
It's giving them some buy-in. It's giving them going, okay, we've heard your story and we agree that this is good, So, and I mean, I went back to Hale School last week. So the first school that gave me a shot last year, and they're putting it up. All their students have to hang their keys up in the office during the day, and so they're going to put that poster right there with the keys. So that's a brilliant idea.
You can pass that on to other schools. Tell them the same ideas. Yeah.
So again, it's up to the school what they want to do with the poster. But I just thought it was a great idea, and it's getting really good buy-in and feedback. So going to St Pat's in a couple of months when I go over to Sydney for 3 or 4 schools again, and my old school, obviously St Pat's. So
How are you feeling about that?
That's going to be a really tough one. Mum has asked if she can come again as well. I said to the school, she has seen me talk, so if she's there, she's there. If she's not, I understand.
We just want her in the corner. We just want her out of eyesight.
But what I'm trying to do with that one is maybe make a small 90-second video, like a production of me, like beforehand. This was a high school where I was swim champion and my name's up on the wall. I walked those halls for 7 or 8 years. That school actually started in year 5, so I was there in 5 and 6, and then you go into the high school. So some of the teachers that are still there were there when I was there. And so that's going to be it's going to be really tough, but also like a really full circle moment for me. I've managed to hold it together through most of my talks, but I reckon that one will probably be the one that I actually can't. And I'm like thinking about it now. It's going to be a really powerful moment and a chance for me to like come in and be thankful for still being here and for being in a state where I can accept what I did but use it as an opportunity to teach others. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm still here.
Now, I mentioned earlier that I'm off alcohol, and that was tricky for me, and it was a health decision. My body basically made the choice for me to stop drinking. I think if it was not because of that, I probably would still drink. And not that I was a huge drinker, but I love...
You're enjoying it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love wine. I love the wine culture. I loved being not a wine snob, but a bit of a wine guy, like a guy who could enjoy and talk about wine.
You buy wine from Aldi, so you're not a wine snob.
No, I'm not a wine snob. I'm too cheap to be a wine snob. But I loved the culture of it. I loved beer and whiskey.
Okay. Yeah.
And I loved the feeling of a Friday afternoon and knowing
you were going.
I was going to have one, or well, more than one. But I would never binge drink I haven't binge drink for 20 years, but it would be 2, 3, maybe 4. Because there's the one thing I am good at is knowing where my buzz ends, and it's usually around 3 or 4 drinks. My question is, because now I feel like I've got through the hard part. For anyone who's thinking about giving it a go, I would say the first 30 days are horrendous. 60 days is still quite hard. I'd say 90 days, you finally could probably go to a party or an event and watch other people drink, because I found that probably quite difficult. So my question is, when you've gone these extended periods of time, how do you make the decision, I'm going to have a drink now? Because I think about this, right? I'm like, I've sort of said in my mind, I'm going to go 12 months. But I think, knowing who I am, I might get to 12 months and go, nah, I'm just not going to do it.
And keep going. Yeah.
How did you wrestle with that decision to go, well, I've done that. I've done, I think you said 13 months or something. It was quite a long time.
I've done 4, I've done 8, and I've done 13, and I'm now currently going 18. So I'm going to try and beat 13.
Yeah. How do you make the decision to go, I'm going to have one now?
Well, it's a great question, and I've never been asked it. And I think the only answer to it is that I've never justified with myself that I could go forever. I think I've thought that, I knew that I could quit smoking, and I did 10, 11 years ago. And I knew that I could. So alcohol is that one thing that I've still never been able to fully quit. I've got a handle on it, a lot better than I ever did before, to the point where I can go these long stints, these 4, then 8, then 13. And now knowing that I've done 13, I'm like, if you've done 13, you can do 18. So I'm currently 8 weeks in. So I started on the 30th of December, the day before New Year's Eve.
Which is interesting.
Interesting. Well, I just thought, why not just start now on the 30th rather than the 31st, which is a day that has such huge significance for me.
But even most people would go 1st of January.
Yeah. No, I think you need to go for something whenever you feel it's right.
In that moment for you.
And same with when people relapse, if it's a drink, if it's cigarettes, whatever it is, that's okay. Just go again.
Yeah.
Just keep trying.
Yeah.
So I am wondering if there will be a day when I'll get to that 18-month mark, or if I go again and get to that 2-year mark or that 2.5-year mark, whenever that comes, and I go, I don't need this anymore, because it was always a reward for me. I did a post only a week or 2 ago. Alcohol was always a reward, a stupid reward that I didn't earn and I didn't deserve.
But I think that's the culture. It's the beer after work.
Yeah.
It's the Friday night drinks.
Yeah.
It's all of that stuff that is kind of like you had the hard day work. Now you get the beer.
So the times when I have gone those long distances, just like I am now, I say, keep yourself busy, keep yourself occupied, and you don't have time for the bad stuff. That's like a bit of a motto of mine, which is put that endurance event in front of you, do that charity work, write that book, start that business, come and do that podcast, meet people, converse, share your story, be a good father, turn up and lead people at work. If you keep yourself busy, there's no time to sit around drinking, doing drugs, and being strung out and hungover all the time, because life is just too short. So I just keep myself really busy.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. And sorry to go into the weeds with this, but I'm fascinated by it. I have a follow-up question.
Yeah, that's okay.
You mentioned it as a reward, but where does guilt fit into this? Because I feel like if I was to crack open a bottle of wine on this Friday, my overwhelming emotion would probably be guilt, which would actually stop me from enjoying the wine. When you reach your point to go, I've done my 18 months, let's say it's the 18 months that you're at the beginning of. When you get to the 18 months and you've told yourself this is going to be a reward now. Yeah. Based on what's happened in the past, do you think it will be rewarding?
No. And so again, that's why I'm so vocal and share things, because for so long I always used it as a reward. I thought it was a reward, but every time that I do longer and longer and longer, and I get stronger and stronger and stronger. Same as when I do an endurance event. Every time you do an event, there's always that challenging moment where you fall out of the kayak, or you're standing there going, why do I do these things? But when you get through it, you're a little bit stronger for the next time. So yeah, I think I do. There will come a day when I'm like, that is no longer needed. That's not the reward I need anymore. And so the date that I've set, 18 months, will be the end of the big ride. So I was planning it for this year, but I've put it off a year because I had work commitments and new book and family and all sorts of things. I'm getting married at the end of the year. Tash and I are getting married in October. Congrats. That probably should have come first before all the other things. I'll get killed for that. But look, there's so much happening this year that I had to put the ride, which was in July, off 12 months. Yep. It will still happen because I've got an amazing few sponsors that have already bought me a bike, and it will happen absolutely, because it's also going to be a big part of the charity. As I ride across from Perth to Sydney, I'm going to stop in at 5 regional centres and deliver an activation or a community talk that night. So
awesome.
that's going to be sort of a big part of the purpose of the talk. And then when we get to the other side, finish in Bondi, do a bit of event there as well, and a send-off event in Scarborough. But
Do people join you, or is it just you doing?
I'm just doing this solo. I'm going to have a support crew because I think being 3 weeks out on the Nullarbor and across Australia will probably not end that well if you don't have a support crew with all the hydration and things that you need. But yeah, so I've digressed again as well. I've gone off
We
topic.
like that.
Okay,
We like that.
that's fine.
Yeah,
But
so
I'm going into the weeds on the drinking.
yeah. And it's good. It's good because this is, I said, that is truly the one thing that is the catalyst for my story. It has controlled me on and off over the last 5, 10, 15 years. And it's the one thing that I at least have control over. I've never gone as far as to admit I'm an alcoholic, but if I'm not, I'm very close. I know that I'm a terrible person when I'm on it. And that could be 2 or 3 drinks. I start to change. I remember
That's not a lot to start changing.
Yeah, even after 3 or 4.
clients
Well,
that
I
tell me
feel
that.
it. I mean, I can feel it after 3 or 4. And then after you've had 3 or 4, you're like, oh, let's just have 5 or 6. You'll be okay. 5 or 6 turns into 12 or 15. And then you get to that blackout stage where I'll start doing spirits and things like that. So for me, I just know that I'm a much better person without it. I remember I was best man at one of my best mates' weddings a year or so after I got out of prison. They kind of waited for me to get out. And again, I think it's the only time I've ever been a best man at a wedding. But I've known that mate since we were little kids, and his beautiful partner. I actually stay with them when I go to Sydney in May, and did a few times last year. But I remember Vanara, his partner, who I've known for 20, 25 years, she used to say, Paul Turley is the greatest bloke, beautiful bloke, but not when he drinks. The minute he drinks, turns into somebody else. And that is, for her to say that, like for someone else looking that is just giving you an honest opinion, that I tried to ignore that and forget that for so long. But there's no denying it. You know, I've lived it. I still live it. I know that if I go and break out the bottles, we don't know what's going to happen tonight or tomorrow.
But you know, that's so common, because even with lots of clients that I see, they could complain about a partner and say, you know, after this many drinks, he changes or she changes, and it really impacts the relationship. And if that person's not hearing that, then the other person's now starting to dread when they're drinking and being hypervigilant when they're drinking, and it really just changes the dynamics in the relationship. It can really impact a lot. So if that person's not hearing, hey, your behaviour changes, or you're a little bit more snappy or a little bit more belligerent or whatever the thing might be, if you're not hearing that, you're actually doing damage to your relationships also.
Absolutely. I think, you know, you need to identify what's important for you in your life and for those you love, that those people that actually support you and will be there with you and have your back. So if you're betraying that for a moment of, you know, feeling warm and fuzzy, you've got to have a long, hard look deep inside you and think about who's the person you really want to be? Where do you want to be in the next couple of years? And what legacy do you want to leave behind? Is it an improvement to what you're doing today, tomorrow? Think about the support. This person will do anything for you. So do you want to betray that? Do you want to push them away? Do you want to lose them?
Those
and T
questions.
for time, okay? Is this a good... do I have stuff to do tomorrow? Do I have stuff that I want to achieve tomorrow?
That's a
Because
good one.
otherwise you're going to be sitting there drunk all day,
It's
regretting
the
your
consequences.
decision.
I agree, because it's not even just thinking of the consequences, like definitely think of it long term in terms of what you could cause and what you could do and the damage to your relationship. But even just think, tomorrow do I want to feel like shit when I'm getting up and I'm having to go to my kid's sporting event or sitting in the sun all afternoon?
And your kids, like they idolize you. They want, and it goes so fast. You know, I'm looking at my 4-year-old now. He's a big lanky thing already. Like he's not that little guy that I held just a couple of years ago. He's big.
Yeah.
And my daughter, my God, she's nearly 6 foot. Like
wow.
there was a photo of me and her on the beach, and I'm like, my God, I'm in so much trouble. She's a big lanky 6 foot blonde thing, and I'm like, where has this last 10 years gone? Like 10, 12, it's just flown. So there isn't time to really sit around feeling sorry for yourself. You just need to make a plan, identify what you want, and go for it. And you don't have to know what that is straight away either. That you can learn as you go, right? You just start and you pick up bits and pieces from everyone along the way. And the people you meet, you know, like meeting you two guys today and Lenny, is just amazing. You know, that could be friends for life because we did this and we had that conversation.
That's what I love about this show. Actually, we've met some amazing people, including you. Now, I need to know, did you drink at that wedding?
Oh,
you're the best man.
You're so funny.
At the wedding, I think I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I think
The
I
reason
did.
I ask is we haven't been to a wedding for a decade,
Years.
and then I quit drinking, we did 3 weddings.
Yeah.
And I was sober at all 3
Sober
weddings.
at the weddings. Wow.
One of the
Yeah, last year was all
some
3
of the
weddings, wasn't it?
hardest
Yeah.
nights.
But
Like,
how strong did you feel the next day?
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Proud.
really good. Proud.
Like you. And
Well, I'm getting married at the end of the year, and
Yeah.
that's
Gonna be
going to
sober
be
at your
own
I'm gonna be
wedding.
sober
That's-
at my own wedding
That's
because that's only
amazing.
going to be 9 or 10 months into that.
Amazing.
So, I mean, I did 13 months, so I know I can do more.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
You know,
Yeah.
and I've done ones leading up to that too. So it's just about identifying the person you are.
Yeah.
You know, all those. What's the pros and cons? Weigh it up. Look at all the pros when you don't. Look at the con. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
the pros when you do, you feel fuzzy for a bit.
Yeah.
You escape. What
Yeah.
do I need to escape? I've got a brilliant
That's
life.
a big
I've got a
part of it,
brilliant
yeah.
family. I've
Yeah.
got everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had to work for it, but I've got it.
Yeah.
So why would you waste that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Before Scott hijacks it with another drinking question, because I know we need to wrap up soon, I want to hear about your books and I want to hear
The
how you got
books.
into that.
So again, that came from always having a passion for writing and for English and being creative. Probably the one skill that I kind of still did okay at school, despite me being a bit of a delinquent and being silly and wasting a lot of potential. But yeah, because I actually had a poem published when I was in year 10. I had a poem published in a proper publication. It was about my
for a
little brother.
teenager, that's
it was
pretty-
the year of tolerance. It was the International Year of Tolerance, and it was about my little brother being a pain or something. I've never been able to actually find the poem. I'd love to find it one day. But then again, it's writing through prison, and then when I was working in mining, which I have been since Perth, the last 12 or 13 years, and one night there was just nothing to do, and they told me, pick up that hose and hose that pile of dirt over there. And I was just standing there going, oh my God, not that I'm above this, but I do want to do more than this. I have more skills than this. And my daughter was sort of 2 or 3 at the time, and I was reading to her every time I was home, and even sometimes over FaceTime, I'd read a book to her and things. And I just had all these ideas start to pop in. So the first one was I was putting a banana into her lunchbox, along with the chips and the muesli bar and all the stuff. And all the good stuff would get eaten, but the poor old banana would come home again. And then I just put it, it's still good. I put it back in the next day, it'd go out, it'd come back again. I put it in the third day, it'd go out. So I wrote the book Banana's Big Day Out. Okay. and every parent can relate to it
clever.
because
Yeah.
by the 5th day, the banana's pretty brown and
Yeah.
ready for the bin. And I was like, you can't end the book like that. It's got to be a nice note because it's a little kid's book. So in the end, what do you do with a banana that's old and brown? You turn it into banana bread.
Oh, yes, Scott
Yeah.
does.
I have some in the fridge.
There you go. So every parent knows it. So it's kind of, I started writing these books, and then once I wrote one, then I had another idea about, I won't go too much into the other ones because they're still in production. But yeah, there's a second one that's about ninjas that was kind of based on being a transforming into a ninja at night, you know, to put the baby to sleep and creeping out of the room and things like that. So yeah, there's ninja one, there's a pirate one, there's one about sharks that don't wear shoes and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, but AI is a scary and amazing thing. You know, I've toyed with the idea of getting my illustrations done via AI, just because of the speed and of which I could then bring out these next 3 or 4 books. But yeah, we made that first book 15 months ago, and I printed 500 copies. I've got less than 100 left, which is really
that's
cool.
good.
So yeah, I didn't do a lot of marketing and stuff with it last year because I was so busy with What For and being a dad and doing all these things and trying to be better at being more present because I guess getting back to my point of be so busy that you don't have time for the bad stuff, don't be too busy that you forget about what you got as well.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
I know
that's
that
huge.
it was putting a strain, you know, on Tash and on the kids, and it has even strained, you know, my relationship with my 13-year-old daughter now, where I have to do some work in that space to prove to her, you know, that I'm so busy trying to get all this good stuff going for us, that all of that doesn't matter if there is no
I
us.
can give you a tip because I with our son, I would say there was a couple of years there where, I'm not sure he liked me that much.
You were just working so hard.
I couldn't even put my finger on.
There was just dynamics that were going on
Yeah,
at
there
that
was
time.
dy-
He was quite tricky a few
He was
years
a
ago.
tricky kid at that age, at sort of 12, 13.
Yeah.
The thing that
No, it was earlier. It was 11, 12.
Yeah, it lasted a while.
Yeah.
What I found totally changed our relationship. I coached his soccer team,
Nice. Yes.
and it was it was last year, so under 16s,
Yep.
and just the trips in the car to train. Like he didn't want me to do it. Like I was a good soccer player.
Yeah. Cool.
He did not want me to do it, and then his friends, because I'd sort of helped out the season before, they're like, no, he'd be good. So then he came around to the idea, and then once we got going, and he saw that the kids in the team respected me.
Yeah.
It changed everything.
That's awesome.
And we've been
so good.
pretty close.
Yeah, you play darts together.
Yeah, we do lots of stuff together. We have the relationship now that I always wanted. It was just that tricky age, I would say. Yeah, you reckon?
Yeah, it was-
11,
you're right in it.
You've
11
got to get
to 13.
on that level as well. Like you found something that you clicked
Yes.
with, which is
Yeah.
great. And that's always been hard with my daughter, I guess, because A, I was away a lot. B, her mum has put her into a lot of things, which I shouldn't say are girly, but statistically, you know, women do a bit more dance and singing and performance, things like that. There's lots of great young guys and men that do it. You know, you look at the Hugh Jackmans and people like that. But I guess we weren't really connecting on that level. That was kind of her and her mum's thing.
Yeah.
And I was just along for the ride, come to whenever she performs and help her go to training and things like that and lessons. But I want to find, you know.
Just be something. It could be anything. It could be going to the beach.
I've taken her to the beach a few times. She likes that. I take her to the bush. You know, I know that there will be times when we can reconnect and I can show her. I mean, there's always those opportunities as long as you keep trying. You know, as long as you're there in the background and you're supportive and you keep trying. But again, now with the little fella, totally different dynamic because he's just into everything. So whether it's going to be athletics, football, whatever it is, I know he's keen to ride a bike, jump in the trampoline, do everything. So it is. It's just about being there, trying.
Yeah, keep trying, and they'll come around. Now we've taken up a lot of your time, and you've also got an hour trip home, so we'll let you go. But I have one final question. It's a deep one.
Is it about alcohol?
No, it's a serious one. Have you forgiven yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been asked myself that a few times. I have. I think by doing what I do these days, I can hold my head up high, and I can try and, you know, realize that what we went through was terrible, but it didn't happen for nothing. I think if I didn't do what I'm doing, then it would probably consume me. I would still be drinking. I would still be becoming that terrible person and not, you know,
not growing from
into anything that I am these days. So I needed to do what I do for myself as much as for anybody else and for the victim, you know. So there was always that. I thought, I need to do it for him. I need to do it for me. I need to do it for my family, for anyone who, you know, I had great coaches. I had great teachers, because with something like this, you could do nothing about it and no one would ever really know, but people that know me closely, you know.
Do you think the victim's family knows?
No, I don't think they do. I reached out, I've obviously get asked that a lot. Have you ever had any contact, or do you know who they are, or do they know who you are? Maybe not, because they're in China, and I know his name. His name is Yuk Wai Leung, and I would love one day to maybe meet a child or a grandchild of his if they want to meet me. But I'm also under no illusions that it's completely on their terms. I'd love to, if there was ever an opportunity to show them that it didn't happen for nothing and that I'm doing something about it.
That's what it is. It's about saying, I took that so seriously. I've done something with that.
It didn't happen for nothing. You know, we're helping people off the back of it, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, and I cared enough to do that. Like, it mattered to me what happened.
And I'll keep doing it for as long as I can, and as long as it's having an impact. And for that reason, I've been able to forgive myself. But it doesn't mean I'm not still hard on myself, and I don't still work all the time to make sure that something is being done about it.
Well, I think the work you are doing is amazing.
Oh, it's incredible. It's so powerful. It really, really is. And I think every teenager needs to hear your story.
Thank you so much.
Or a version of.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tracy.
And if anyone is listening who wants to find out how they can get in touch with you
or buy a book.
Or buy a book, or get you speaking at their school or workplace, how can they find you?
So there's a couple of websites. There's whatforservices.com, www.whatforservices.com. That's the business page for speaking. There's the charity page has just started, which is whatforcharity.org. And there's a Turley Books page as well, where it's just a little landing page where you could buy a book, and hopefully the new books will be uploaded there in the next year or two as well as they come out. But I'm very active on socials as well. You can find me on LinkedIn, and probably not as much on Facebook and Instagram as I should be, but you can find me on there. And I'd just love to continue to share this story because I know that it's the right thing to do, and it has the power to help other people and even just get them. That's the biggest thing, is once you share something like that, people let their guard down a bit and break their
Yes.
barriers down, and they go, you know what, now I'm going to talk about something that's really troubling me because you've shared that, now I can share this. And that's exactly what it's about. You know, it's then getting them to open up and go, we can work on this together, or actually I know someone who can help you with this, and then it might save that person too.
I love that.
Amazing. I think that's a great place to end. Paul, thank you. It's been a pleasure meeting you and speaking with you. Thank you.
Likewise. Thanks so much. Cheers, guys.
Wow, that was a powerful conversation.
It sure was. And we could have talked to him all day.
Yeah. Not really sure what to say. We covered a lot, and like I feel kind of moved by the whole thing and how he's been able to take something so
Devastating.
and turn it into a positive, and how vulnerable and honest he was about his relationship with alcohol even today. Powerful.
Yes.
Powerful.
And our longest episode ever, so it shows how much depth we went into. It was incredible.
Yeah. Okay. Anything that we need to talk about before we wrap up the show? I don't think so.
No.
Retreats. There's always retreats.
We have a retreat coming up in May.
So the
we are
Reconnect Yourself retreat is in May. That's on the 1st of May. You can go to tracyquayle.com and find out details about that. And there's always relationship retreats as well. So the June, there's one in June.
This one, there will be no more spaces, but June is our next one coming up if anyone wants any relationship support.
Yes, so there's links to that on the website as well. Well, maybe I'll use this minute just to say thank you for everyone who gives us such positive feedback about the show. One way that you could really help is just tell somebody about the show.
Share it.
Share it, yeah. Share a link. Talk about it at the dinner table or at the pub or wherever. Just let people know that you like the show, and that helps us a great deal. And if you are watching on YouTube, like and subscribe, and on Spotify, do a little 5-star review, or Apple Podcasts, do a little review. That really helps us grow the show, and it just makes me feel good because I do check the numbers, and there's nothing worse than seeing a flat line, and there's nothing nicer than seeing a line that's going up. So if you want to help us, you like us, that's a simple thing that you could do.
Yes, we very much appreciate that.
Yes.
So thank you.
Beautiful. Okay. And if you want to follow us on social media, it's at tracyquayle.therapy. And if you want to try that breath work that we put out on YouTube, you can look up me on YouTube, which is at DJ Scotty Q, or just put DJ Scotty Q into the YouTube search bar. And you can try that really cool breath work, which we did at the beach, and then since shared it online, and lots of people have liked it. We've got lots of nice comments and likes, and it's a 15-minute breath work with all the music, the house music that I like, and a little 5-minute meditation at the end. So the whole thing is 20 minutes. And you can do it at the beginning of the day, you can do it to break up your day, or you can do it before you go to bed. And it's, I did one yesterday. I did it yesterday, and I like it. And yeah, I'm even listening to myself, which is weird, and I like it.
Yeah.
I think we did a good job.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Yes.
You did a good job too. All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks, babe. Good job today.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.